Question 30 in the Book of Questions. Would you rather be given $10,000 for your own use or $100,000 to give anonymously to strangers? What if you could keep $1 million or give away 20 million? Now, this was written in the mid-80s, so perhaps I should bring it up to date to better reflect the original intent of the writer. So, roughly multiply by 2.5 and change dollars to pounds. So would I rather be given £25,000, a useful amount of money, but possibly not life-changing, for my own use, or £250,000 to be given anonymously to strangers? Anonymously, that's a nice tip. So I can't give it away hoping for glory and recognition and thanks and all those things. I wouldn't be buying any goodwill. So that's not part of the equation. So I think it was good for the question writer to put in that word, anonymously, because it does make a difference. There are an awful lot of people who anonymously donate to charity. There are extremely rich people who give a charity $20 million anonymously. Yeah, it is anonymously in that it doesn't get announced to the public, but it's never actually anonymously. The people who need to know, they know. So, for instance, you're a tremendously rich guy and you give anonymously this money to charity, but your wife knows, or the woman you're hoping becomes your wife, particularly if you've only quite recently married her, you're trying to cement, you really want her to think you're such a great guy. And the people in the charity industry, they'll probably know where it came from. And the right people in society, they might, secretly through the grapevine be let in on the secret. So yeah, huge anonymous donations might be anonymous to the general public, but that's not real anonymity. Anyway, sorry, bit of a sidetrack. Well, one thing I notice is that the amounts are not the same when they scale up. So the smaller amounts, one is 10 times the other, and the larger amounts, one is 20 times the other. So it'd be £2.5 million or £50 million, which is 20 times as much. And that's really life-changing. I mean, for £2.5 million, I could pay the mortgage off on my house straight away, and then I could make a movie. I'd have enough money to make a movie. I don't want to die not having made a movie. So strangers. I don't get to choose who these people are at all, we'll say. I don't get to say what type of stranger. They are just completely random humans. And it has to be anonymous. Well, one question that comes to mind is, where does this money come from? Because if that's £25,000 that's come from somewhere, then that means if I get it, someone else doesn't get it. And who am I to decide that I'm going to spend it more wisely or am more deserving than the people who sort of deserved it by actually originally having it? So that would argue towards going for the smaller amount for myself, you understand, for purely altruistic reasons. Because that way I would be taking a smaller amount of money from other people who might be more deserving. Have you thought of that? On the other hand, also arguing the same ways if it doesn't come from anywhere, because a lot of these questions involve magic. You feel a huge amount of money is able to be just magicked into your bank account by a genie. So no one else has had money taken off them then. So you've actually created possibly £50 million of inflationary money. You've printed money. You've dumped that into the economy. That could do a lot of harm. So perhaps in order not to harm the economy of my nation as much as it otherwise would, I should personally accept the smaller amount of money. Rather, because there you go. But it's a good. I'm rationalising it here. I want the money. So who are these strangers? Well, you could liken strangers onto a bank. You could say you're giving a large amount of money to a bank in the form of all those strangers. Now, it doesn't say how it's distributed. So that £50 million could be £1 to 50 million people, or even 10 pence to 500 million people, and that's not going to make any significant difference to any of those people. It will just sort of just wash away in the grand economy. Whereas a significant amount of money that's coming to me, I definitely get all of it. So it's definitely, if it's 2.5 million, it's definitely going to change my life. Whereas giving it to an unknown number of strangers might actually change nobody's lives and have that inflationary effect. Or if it came from somewhere, be robbing other people. So all this is arguing, you see, the same way, which is that I should accept the smaller amount. But let us imagine that it is at least a moderately useful amount of money going to a load of strangers. If you give money to a bank, then you'd like to think that when it gives out that money, it'll be in the form of loans for people who have deliberately applied for a loan for a certain thing. They have a use for it. They're trying to set up a building, set up a company, or build a building, or something useful, something creative, something constructive like that. So a bank would perhaps spend the money wisely, whereas giving it to loads of strangers doesn't sound wise, even if you give them a useful amount of money. Some of them will be gamblers and others will spend it on alcohol, sweets and comics. Giving money out randomly, I've no reason to believe that it would be spent well. Whereas if I get all the money, after the mortgage, you understand, get to make a movie, and I'll employ lots of people, and there'll be a movie in the world that I will try really hard to make as good as possible. I'm confident that I will at least try to spend, because I'm me, to spend that money wisely. Whereas I can have no confidence in random strangers to spend it wisely. So, in fact, strangers are not very much like the bank. So, do you know what? I'm going to take the money.